The Prime Minister there, ending on the sports saga. We're expecting to hear from the opposition leader Anthony Albanese in the House at the top of the hour, so in about 10 minutes' time. So more on that coming up shortly. On the coronavirus handling, the way the government is dealing with this. Interesting to see the Prime Minister there really putting pressure on the major banks to follow the Reserve Bank's lead. If it does, as expected, cut interest rates this afternoon, saying banks need to act in the best interest of the nation as we do grapple with this crisis. We still have with us Professor Gordon Flake from the Perth USAsia Centre. We heard there a lot from Scott Morrison about how Australia is out in front. We're on the front foot when it comes to the handling of this crisis. Would you agree with that assessment? How does it compare to what we're seeing around Asia and in the US?
Well, clearly, you see the advantages of having a Prime Minister whose word, at least on health issues, is widely respected, flanked by public health experts and people from the government reassuring the country. That's a situation that we don't have in the United States right now. This is an issue where long-standing attacks on expertise, on the institutions of government, on the credibility of the media, and on the President himself have kind of put a situation forth where there's a little bit more anxiety surrounding that. Hopefully with the appointment of Vice President Pence to head up a special task force on the issue and the very real expertise that exists in society more broadly, they'll get ahead of it. But this reminds us in some respects how relatively good we have it in Australia.
Yeah, the US political scene very different to Australia's at the moment. We were just discussing Super Tuesday happening overnight Australian time tonight, and we are standing by also to hear from Joe Biden. He's addressing a rally in Dallas today and is expected to be endorsed by Pete Buttigieg, who's just pulled out of the race, and also Amy Klobuchar. You were talking before we went to Scott Morrison about just how crucial Super Tuesday is for that Democratic presidential nomination process.
Absolutely. It's important to remember that as of yet, only 5% of delegates have been awarded. So we still have 95% to go. But just 3 days ago, before the primary in South Carolina, it seemed as that the path was wide open for Bernie Sanders to run and accumulate the most delegates in Super Tuesday, and that was because the moderate factions were so divided. There were still 5 major candidates in the race. At this point, it looks like when you get into Super Tuesday, it'll be Sanders, Biden, and Bloomberg. And the Bloomberg is an unknown quantity as of yet. We have to see how.
Well, he's spending a lot of money, but
a lot of money. But obviously, debate performance and on-the-ground performance has been different. So we'll see. I wouldn't rule that out. That's still a question to be answered, and because he hasn't competed yet, we don't know the impact of that money. But the fact that not just Buttigieg and Klobuchar, but it looks like Beto O'Rourke in the last 70 hours, I think we've seen something like 20 senior Democratic leaders kind of endorse Joe Biden. So there is a coalescing around him as a candidate out of a fear, first and foremost, that Bernie Sanders is the candidate that matches up worst with President Trump. And that's exactly the reason why President Trump has been doing everything he can to boost Bernie Sanders and to fuel that discontent between the Sanders faction and the rest of the Democratic Party. Today, going so far as to say that once again the Democrats are trying to steal the election from Bernie Sanders, which is kind of strange given the fact that only 5% of the delegates have been awarded.
Because as controversial a president as Donald Trump has been, he's not going to be easy to beat in November.
No question, no question. And that's why I think there's been several polls in the last months among Democratic voters more broadly about what is more important, to have a president who agrees with you or a candidate who agrees with you, or one who can beat Donald Trump. And at this point, it's like 64-35. The priority has been upon making sure that the matchup against Donald Trump is best as possible. And today, at least, that looks like that's Joe Biden.